Having gotten your MFA now in film
Yes.
directing, would you recommend film school to younger filmmakers?
I would. There are some cons. It is expensive, especially to go to a private school, which unfortunately some of the best film schools are. There were some frustrating things I experienced. I felt that Chapman was a little bit too much of a you're on your own for post type of school, which was frustrating, but I did learn a lot. And what a lot of people say, I do think is true, that a big part of film school is the networking and getting to know people. That I think is very, very valuable.
Many of us move to Los Angeles to pursue a dream of breaking into the film industry. We get to know our beloved characters on screen, but who is the person behind the camera? I'm your show host, Olivia Lyle, and welcome to Coffee and Conversations. Tivoli, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Before we jump in, we always like to ask our guests what your go-to coffee is.
I can only have coffee if I have a lot of flavored creamer in it. It can't be half and half or milk. It has to be flavored creamer, and it has to be enough that I just can't taste the coffee. And that's the only way I'll actually stand coffee, which is ironic because I've done a short film that takes place entirely in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, I love the atmosphere of coffee shops, but I can't drink coffee. Like, the only thing I can usually order is either a pastry or hot chocolate, but that's only good for a couple months out of the year. So that, that short is kind of inspired by that inner frustration.
Do you like the smell of it?
I do like the smell.
So
and
nice.
I have coffee yogurts, those Dannon coffee yogurts that they smell like every morning practically.
Ooh, okay.
So I can have that, but not actual coffee. I'm kind of weird that way.
Okay. I'd love for you now to just share your heart with us and tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Tampa, Florida. I went to undergrad at the University of Florida. Go Gators.
Yeah.
And I majored in English because when I got in, I was kind of undecided. I was trying to determine whether I wanted to go pursue film, which was kind of my heart's desire, or something along the lines of environmental science or wildlife biology, something in those regards. I realized, no, I just need to pursue film. It's what I love. And even though there have been times where I'm like, ooh, yeah, that would have been, nice to have that more job security. And in a way, I haven't looked back. I've just been like, yeah, this is always what I was meant to do. But it was tricky because they didn't really have a film department at UF. It was part of the English department. And I was able to take some film studies courses and film production classes that they had. But it wasn't what you expect at film schools. Like, the cameras they had used mini DV tapes.
Oh my God.
This was in 2014, I will add. It's only 10 years ago. So there were a lot of challenges. I felt frustrated because in some ways, I didn't get quite as much of the hands-on experience that I wanted to. I had to join clubs to get some of what I wasn't getting in the courses, which was a lot more focused on documentary. Which, was valuable, but was frustrating compared to what I really wanted to learn at the time. And that all accumulated in my honors thesis film. So I did a 39-minute narrative film, like a film noir film that I did with, I'd say, little help from the school, just because, most film schools, you get a lot of, help and support. Mm-hmm. I borrowed audio equipment and some lighting equipment, and that was about it. I had to borrow a friend's camera because I didn't want to use those mini DV tapes. And there were several scenes where I was the only crew member. It was quite a challenge. And frankly, to me, it's a miracle that film got made.
And was that your first film you ever made?
Yeah, it was the first narrative film I solo directed. I had done like some promos for my church and stuff like that. But that, in a way, was my first film that I did.
39 minutes is a long time for your first film.
Yeah, it shows, definitely how ambitious I can be, for sure. That I was like, no, this is a story I want to tell. Even if it was 1 minute under the Student Academy Award deadline that, I was aiming, or not deadline, time limit that I was aiming for. So.
Good for you.
But it also really taught me the importance of collaboration, that film, because nothing makes you desire to have a team than doing something so ambitious by yourself. Because, I was the cinematographer, and I realized I'm not great at cinematography. It's a little bit too technical. There's some, things I can easily forget.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a cinematographer on my side to take care of all that and see my vision.
At least now moving forward, you can understand all the different tasks at hand that are happening.
Yes.
Because you've done them all.
Yes, for sure. It does. I do have a kind of umbrella knowledge of all that goes into making a film because I've done it before.
That's really good. And you're primarily a writer and director, correct?
I am primarily a writer and director,
So at what age did you start writing and directing?
So writing has always kind of been a major part of my life. I've been, creating stories in my head since as long as I can remember. And, I started writing down like the concepts and stuff like that. Then in like middle school, my mom was like, hey, you should like transcribe to me like what the stories are so that, you can work on them, keep track of them. So I started doing that. And then I started typing them out on my own in high school, which to me was the point where I really got good at typing, was when I had to write my own stuff. You can only do native speaking and teaches typing for so long, but then that was what really, made me get good at typing. But yeah, I like to write these, I guess they're kind of treatments, but they're so detailed and I don't really give a crap about grammar in them. So I call them summaries just to separate them in my mind from more formal treatments. And that's my way of planning out stories, because it just started out as my way to get my thoughts on paper, and now it's, become a part of my process where I do that. And then, I go on to writing either the novel or the script. For directing, it took a little longer. It's funny because as a kid, my only thought about directing was, oh, that's too much responsibility. I'm not interested. Which is honestly kind of amusing for a kid to say, in my opinion. But then...
accurate. Very accurate.
Yeah. So one big event that got me interested in the film industry in general and made me start following, movie news and stuff like that was the movie The Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
And, after that, I started, going to the movies more often, really paying attention to what was being released and stuff like that. And one of the things that happened from that was I gained an interest in acting. I was immediately kind of jealous of those child actors, and I was like, oh, I want to be an actress. So then fast forward to ninth grade, I was in English class. We were like learning Romeo and Juliet. And I was, fantasizing one day in PE class of all things, which is a class I hated, but I guess it brought this good revelation. I was daydreaming about, me playing Juliet in a movie version of Romeo and Juliet. And then the thought occurred to me, actors don't have that much control over the film outside of their performance. That's all they bring to it. And for the first time in my life, the thought of directing actually sounded appealing. I was like, oh, this actually sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And by chance, in that English class, the very next thing we covered was basic film terms, like tilts, pans, close-ups, wide shots, that type of thing. And I fell in love. And from that moment forward, I decided I was interested in directing.
I love it. I know you've written many novels. You've directed a couple of short films now. Is there a common theme between your novels and film?
Common themes I find, I tend to write women protagonists. Not always, because I do have some short films. Like 2 of my short films have male protagonists instead of female. One thing that I do try to do in my work is, I'm a Christian, a woman of faith, and I like to weave, elements of my faith into my stories, but I don't want to do faith-based, movies and books. I want to just do what I call secular faith-based movies and books, where general audiences can enjoy them, but there may be like some elements that, the Christian audiences will glean a little bit more from.
Yeah.
And I think Narnia is a big, influence on that, because anyone can enjoy those films, but if you're a Christian, you can glean a lot more out of them. Mm-hmm. So that's, a big, common thread, not in like all my works, but, some of them.
Cool.
And I feel like especially as, time's going by and some of more recent works that's becoming more prevalent.
Yes, I know you're about to launch a crowdfunding campaign
Yes.
for one of your short documentaries. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, I was going to do it sometime around the time we're filming this right now, but due to various circumstances, I think I'm going to postpone to the new year. But yeah, I'm doing a documentary. I'm basically taking a break from narrative filmmaking, because to get to your earlier question of, who I am, what I've been doing, I'll weave back to this. But I moved to LA in 2019 for the UCLA Screenwriting Professional Program. It was finally my ticket out of Florida, because there wasn't much going on there in terms of film, because they don't have any tax incentives. So I was able to move out here for that. And then after that, I did my MFA in film directing at Chapman. So I was able to make 4 more short films there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And one of my short films recently won Best Student Short at the Marina Del Rey Film Festival. So I can now say I'm an award-winning filmmaker.
That's massive.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So to get back to that project, I'm currently taking a break from narrative directing, and I'm trying to try out documentary filmmaking as a change, which I haven't done since 2016, when I made a short film for the American Institute of Architecture I Look Up Film Challenge. I had made a short documentary about the Tampa River Walk. So this is my return to documentary after 9 years. So I'm doing a documentary short about a Narnia fan community called NarniaWeb.com. Film's called Chronicles of Narnia Web, and I basically want to tell the story of this fan community and basically the making of the Walden Narnia films, but from the perspective of the fans, which is an angle I haven't really seen in any movies about fandom, is seeing how, the fans follow news and stuff like that. And there's some, interesting twists and turns in this story in terms of, things, discussions of things and jokes becoming realities in the films, and I really want to, explore that. And it's also just an example of a very positive fandom, even today, during a time when we hear about fandoms, we just hear about, just harshness and people like going to, against, the things that they claim to be fans of and stuff like that.
That'll be fascinating.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and it's also an interesting time capsule of what these fan sites were like in the early aughts, before social media really took over.
After having gotten your MFA now in film directing, would you recommend film school to younger filmmakers?
I would. There are some cons. It is expensive, especially to go to a private school, which unfortunately some of the best film schools are. There were some frustrating things I experienced. I felt that Chapman was a little bit too much of a you're on your own for post type of school, which was frustrating, but I did learn a lot. And what a lot of people say, I do think is true, that a big part of film school is the networking and getting to know people. That I think is very, very valuable. And just having like the alumni resources, like I'm still talking with the Career Center there as I'm trying to actually break into the industry. So that, a resource that I have because I spent the time at film school. And also it just gives you time to really develop your craft, and gives you some cred, I feel. Like I know some people say, oh, no one cares if you went to film school or not, but to me, I think, it is valuable. And
right. How would you respond to that if someone who's been in the industry for, let's say, 20 years says, you don't need film school? What would you?
Everyone's different. If you're able to get in without film school, good for you. I do think I got my master's because I felt like, at UF I didn't get enough of the film school experience that I was craving. So even in the middle of my time at UF, I was like, I want to go to grad school to really get the film school experience. I would say, even if you don't want to do film school per se, I would still try to get a college degree.
Going back 10 years now, what would you tell your younger self for encouragement?
That's interesting. I'm not quite sure what I tell my younger self.
Maybe nothing. Maybe you just let her figure it out.
Yeah. I guess
like
just remember patience.
Patience. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. But yeah, probably say nothing.
She's got it.
Yeah.
She's got it. Okay, I want to finish off with just a couple of fun, quick questions. Favorite movie?
Oh, it's Narnia. I already mentioned that.
Right.
Second favorite, and I do count series as one film just because it makes it easier. So I'm counting the whole of that series.
Okay.
Second favorite, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ooh, nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Favorite hobby?
I like arts and crafts, and I like singing. Singing is something I love to do, and I really need to get back into it.
Favorite genre of music?
I listen to mainly Christian and soundtracks.
Favorite place to eat in LA?
I really like Pinocchio's.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
We will definitely be on the lookout for your crowdfunding campaign and your new documentary short film and all the great things that you're about to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for Coffee and Conversations. If you're new here, you can watch our previous episodes above. You can also follow us on social media in the links below. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to be a featured guest on Coffee and Conversations, send us an email and let us know you're interested. I'll see you next time.